In the magnificent city of Dubai, where skyscrapers touched the clouds and the desert dunes held secrets from ancient times, Joaquin Alvarez was born, the son of the powerful oil magnate Farid Alvarez. A place where luxury and mystery intertwine, shaping the destiny of those who dare to dream big. From the first breath he took in his golden cradle, Joaquin was enveloped in luxury, surrounded by silks and diamonds, but that outward splendor could never fill the emptiness he felt in his heart. The palace, with its crystal-clear fountains and peacocks with iridescent feathers, was his refuge, the only place where he felt free from the expectations that weighed on him like a heavy cloak of lead. As he grew, Joaquin developed an insatiable curiosity about the world beyond the gilded walls of his home. He spent hours in the family library, devouring books about distant lands and dreaming of different cultures. His amber-colored eyes shone with a unique light whenever he spoke of his yearning to travel and learn. Farid, his father, observed those dreams with pride, but also with a shadow of concern. He feared that the outside world would corrupt the purity of his son, who had once been his reflection. When Joaquin turned 18, he made a decision that shook the foundations of the Alvarez family. He chose to study finance in the United States. The news was like a lightning bolt splitting the sky, leaving everyone in shock. His mother, Rania, wept inconsolably, fearing to lose her son to the clutches of the West. Farid, however, saw it as an opportunity for Joaquin to acquire knowledge that would one day benefit the family empire. Before leaving, Joaquin was reminded of his commitment to Mariana, his cousin, a pact made in his childhood. When he looked into Mariana's eyes, he saw the same confusion that he felt. Love cannot be imposed, he thought, but he remained silent, respecting family traditions. The years in America were a profound revelation for Joaquin. He immersed himself in his studies with passion, absorbing knowledge like a thirsty sponge. Far from the opulent parties of Dubai, he discovered the beauty of simplicity, the value of effort, and the strength of honest work. His classmates from diverse parts of the world showed him that true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the richness of the soul. In his final year of university, he received the news that would change his life forever. Mariana and his mother had decided to visit him in the United States, and Joaquin, with a mix of excitement and anxiety, prepared everything to welcome them. But fate, cruel and relentless, had other plans. The plane carrying them never reached its destination, vanishing into the vast waters of the Atlantic. The tragedy was an unrelenting blow for Joaquin, a hurricane of pain that swept away everything he had known. For days, he wandered the streets of New York, lost, searching for answers in a world that had suddenly turned dark and incomprehensible. It was in that deep abyss of sorrow that he decided to stay in America, leaving behind the memories that made it impossible to return to Dubai and to build a new life in a faraway place. Years passed, and Joaquin made a name for himself in the world of finance. But fate, always unpredictable, knocked on his door once again when he received news of his father's grave illness. Without hesitation, he took the first flight back to Dubai, leaving behind the life he had painstakingly built. Upon his arrival, he found his father on his deathbed. With his final breath, Farid asked him to take control of the family empire. Joaquin, heartbroken but resolute, accepted the burden that had always been his by birthright, fully aware that his life no longer belonged to him. Joaquin's return to Dubai was like waking from a long dream. The city had changed, reaching for the sky, but the desert air, the aroma of the souk, everything else remained the same. He immersed himself in his work, taking the reins of the oil business that his father had built with such sacrifice. The long nights in the office, the endless days of negotiations, became his new normal, a refuge where he could drown the sorrow left in his soul by his father's passing. It was on one of those solitary nights, when the city of Dubai seemed to breathe in silence, that he met her. Isla, a young receptionist with emerald green eyes reflecting the serenity of the desert and hair as black as the darkness that falls over the city at night, walked into his office to deliver some forgotten papers. Joaquin, who spent his days buried in contracts and cold numbers, looked up at the sound of the door chime. And there she was, with her warm smile and a presence that was like a breath of fresh air in the dense routine of his life. "I'm sorry, Joaquin. I left these documents on your desk," Isla said softly, her voice like a breeze easing the tension that had built up inside him. He stared at her, feeling a strange sensation in his chest, as if something was awakening within him for the first time in years. "Thank you," he replied, his tone softer than usual, though he didn't understand why. But it was her smile, warm, genuine, that truly captured his soul. It was as if something within him opened, and for a moment, he forgot the weight of his world. From that moment, Joaquin began finding excuses to visit reception, stealing a few more minutes in her presence.
"Do you have any plans for tonight?" he asked casually one day when they crossed paths in the hallway.
Isla looked at him with surprise, but then smiled. "No, actually, I don't. Why?" "Because I'd like to invite you to dinner," he said without much thought, though his heart had made the decision long before he spoke. And so they began going out, though Joaquin quickly discovered that Isla was unimpressed by the luxuries he offered. A walk along the beach, a shared coffee in a corner of the market, these were all she needed to truly smile. "Joaquin, this is what really makes me happy," she told him one day as they walked along the shore, letting the waves brush against their feet. "Fancy dinners and elegant places mean nothing if you don't share the moment with someone who values it." Joaquin, accustomed to a life of luxury, began to understand the truth in her words. In Isla, he found much more than beauty. She was his friend, his confidant, the one who listened without judgment and loved him without reservation. "Sometimes I feel that love should be something simple," he said one night as they gazed at the stars over the desert, "something that isn't measured by luxuries or expectations." She looked at him tenderly. "True love doesn't need adornments, Joaquin," Isla replied. "It just needs to be sincere." Over time, Joaquin realized that what he felt for her was unique, something that transcended any barrier. 6 months after their first meeting, under the light of the full moon and the city's glowing skyline, Joaquin proposed without rings or pomp, just with words that came straight from his heart.
"I don't have a ring, Isla," he said firmly, but with emotion in his voice. "But I offer you all that I am. Will you marry me?"
With tears in her eyes, Isla looked deeply at him as if her soul spoke for her. "Yes, Joaquin. Yes, I will," she said, sealing her promise with a kiss resonating with the vow of a shared future. News of their engagement spread quickly through Dubai, like a wildfire in the desert. The whispers of high society multiplied, questioning who this woman was, who had achieved the impossible, capturing the heart of the city's most eligible bachelor. Joaquin, however, didn't care what others thought, at least at first. When his mother, Rania, found out, her face reflected a mixture of surprise and distrust. "A receptionist?" she asked coldly, disbelief in her eyes. "Who is this woman to my son?" Joaquin, with a mix of pain and determination, responded, "She's the woman I want, Mother, and that's all that matters." Despite his mother's disapproval, Joaquin and Isla were married in a ceremony that combined the magnificence of his world with the simplicity Isla so cherished. Under an arch of white roses, as the sun set and painted the sky gold and crimson, Joaquin felt he had finally found his place in the world. Yet, deep down, a small shadow began forming in his heart. The murmurs of high society, which had started as whispers, grew louder. At every party, every business event, Joaquin felt the disdainful glances. His mother, Rania, made no effort to hide her disapproval, and it began to strain their relationship. "I can't bear seeing Isla treated this way," Joaquin confessed to his friend, frustration clearly visible on his face. "Why can't they understand that this is real?" The first crack appeared that night, after an especially tense dinner with his mother. Joaquin realized that the love he shared with Isla was being tested, not just by the outside world, but by the ghosts of his own past. While Joaquin was preparing for bed, he couldn't ignore how Isla avoided his gaze that night. Her responses were brief, almost mechanical, as if something deeply troubled her. In his mind, his mother's words echoed loudly. Could it be possible that Isla was only with him for his money? Could the accusations he had heard hold some truth? That small seed of doubt, unintentionally planted, began to grow, spreading roots of distrust throughout his being. From that moment on, Joaquin started noticing things that would have gone unnoticed before. How Isla seemed uncomfortable receiving expensive gifts. How her eyes wandered to the modest neighborhoods as they drove past them. One night, As he watched her from the doorway of their room, he silently wondered, does she feel trapped in this world that others would call a dream? It was amidst this tangle of thoughts that Diego, his trusted chauffeur for years, approached him with a worried expression. "Sir," Diego began gravely, "there's something I believe you should know."
What is it, Diego? Joaquin asked, feeling a pang of unease.
Diego took a deep breath before responding. "I've been regularly driving Mrs. Isla to a house on the outskirts of the city. It's a modest home, far removed from the luxury she's accustomed to." Joaquin felt as though he'd been punched in the stomach.
A house? Who lives there? Who is she meeting? He asked, his voice cracking slightly.
Diego shook his head. "I don't know, sir, but I thought you should be informed." That night, Joaquin barely slept. His mind, consumed by mistrust, started crafting increasingly darker scenarios. Does Isla have a secret life? A hidden lover? The idea that the woman he loved could be betraying him tormented him, robbing him of sleep and peace. Unable to confront her directly, fearing he might be wrong or unjustly hurt her, Joaquin made a desperate decision. Using his contacts, he obtained a disguise that would make him unrecognizable. He dyed his hair, wore contact lenses, and altered his posture. He would pose as Diego's double, determined to follow Isla and uncover the truth. On the day he set his plan into motion, his heart pounded like a drum in his chest. From afar, he watched as Isla left the mansion. She was as beautiful as ever, but her face showed a worry he had never noticed before. With trembling hands, he started the engine and followed her at a safe distance, heading into the more humble neighborhoods of Dubai. With each turn of the car and every red light, Joaquin's anxiety grew. Finally, the vehicle stopped in front of a modest house with peeling walls and a rusted metal gate. Joaquin parked at a safe distance and watched as Isla stepped out of the car. He saw her walk toward the door, his heart racing. What will I find behind that door? The door opened, and what he saw left him breathless. It wasn't a young man or a secret lover who greeted her, but an elderly man, hunched over and leaning on a cane. The man extended his trembling arms toward Isla, who embraced him with a tenderness Joaquin had never seen before. Her smile was one of pure, sincere love, devoid of any pretense. Confusion and remorse began to flood Joaquin. Without thinking, he abandoned his disguise and approached the house. Hearing his footsteps, Isla turned, her face reflecting a mix of surprise and fear.
Joaquin, she whispered, her voice trembling, what are you doing here?
The old man, bewildered, looked from one to the other, leaning more heavily on his cane. Joaquin, still trying to process what he was seeing, barely managed to respond.
I needed to know the truth, he said, his voice breaking with guilt.
With tears in her eyes, Isla took the old man's hand and began to explain. He is my father, Joaquin, a carpenter who dedicated his life to giving me an education. When we got married, he asked me not to talk about him. He feared being a burden to us.
The old man spoke for the first time, his voice frail but filled with dignity.
I didn't want you to be ashamed of me, son. Joaquin felt as though the weight of the world had fallen on his shoulders. His shame and regret were overwhelming. He fell to his knees before Isla, his tears flowing freely.
Forgive me, he begged, taking her hands in his. I judged you unfairly. I should never have doubted you.
Isla, with a compassion Joaquin knew he didn't deserve, embraced him tightly.
I love you, Joaquin, she whispered. I love you for who you are, not for what you have. The old man slowly approached and placed a hand on Joaquin's shoulder.
We're a family now, he said softly but firmly. At that moment, Joaquin understood the depth of Isla's love and the strength she had always shown. As tears continued to stream down his face, he made a silent promise. Never again would he let doubt cloud what was true between them. Isla, with a compassion Joaquin knew he didn't deserve, hugged him tightly, her tears mingling with his. The closeness of her body, the comfort of her embrace, made Joaquin feel for the first time that his heart could heal from the wounds of doubt.
I love you, Joaquin, she whispered, her voice trembling but firm. I've loved you from the very beginning, not for your money or your status, but for your heart.
Those words, simple yet powerful, pierced Joaquin's soul like an arrow, disarming him completely. The sadness, fear, and insecurity he had felt for so many days melted away in the warmth of her love. An elderly man, moved by the scene, approached them with hesitant steps and, with a hand worn by the years, rested it gently on Joaquin's shoulder.
"Thank you, son," he said, his voice trembling. "Thank you for giving my daughter a better life."
Joaquin looked at him, overwhelmed by the affection radiating from this man he didn't know, but now felt like family.
It was in that moment that Isla revealed something that once again shook Joaquin's world. With a shy smile and eyes shining with a light he had never seen before, she said, "Joaquin, I'm pregnant." The news hit Joaquin like rain in the desert, filling the arid landscape of his doubts with life and hope. His heart began to beat with renewed strength, replacing the shadows of mistrust with a wave of joy.
"Really?" he asked, his voice breaking with emotion. He could hardly believe it. The idea of becoming a father, of building a family, now seemed like the most beautiful gift life could offer him. With a radiant smile, Isla nodded.
"Yes, Joaquin, I'm expecting our child." Joaquin jumped to his feet, embracing her more tightly than ever. It was as if all the pieces of his life had finally fallen into place. Stepping back, on impulse, he also embraced the elderly man, surprising even himself with the gesture.
"You are my family now," he said firmly, "and I want you to come live with us in our home." The elderly man, overcome with emotion, could only nod, letting tears stream down his wrinkled cheeks. That night, as they returned to the mansion, Joaquin and Isla talked as they never had before. The conversation flowed without barriers, sharing fears, hopes, and dreams with a sincerity that had previously been missing. Joaquin told her about the pressures he had felt, the doubts sown by others, and how he had allowed them to cloud his judgment. "I promise I will never doubt you again," Joaquin said, taking Isla's hands in his. "And I promise to love our child with all my heart, just as I love every part of you." Isla smiled, a smile so bright it lit up the night like 1,000 stars.
"And I promise to always be honest with you no matter what," she replied, her eyes reflecting the truth of her words. As the car approached the mansion, Joaquin made a decision that would change the course of his life. They would no longer live isolated in their ivory tower. He would invite his mother, his friends, and everyone who had doubted Isla to see the truth. He would show them the pure, true love they had found, a love that transcended barriers of class and wealth. The news of Isla's pregnancy and her father's arrival at the Alvarez mansion quickly spread through Dubai's social circles. As expected, Rania, Joaquin's mother, received the news with a mix of conflicting emotions. On one hand, the idea of becoming a grandmother filled her with a joy she hadn't felt in years. On the other hand, the presence of Isla's humble father in her opulent home challenged everything she deemed appropriate. In the privacy of her mind, Rania wrestled with the pride and tradition that had been part of her life. But as the days passed, she began to see a change in her son. Joaquin radiated a happiness she hadn't seen in a long time. She watched him interact with Isla and her father, seeing him laugh, his eyes shining with pure, sincere, and profound love. Slowly, the ice in her heart began to melt. One afternoon, while Joaquin was at work, Rania found herself alone with Isla's father in the garden. The elderly man sat on a bench, observing the roses blooming under the desert sun. With some hesitation, Rania sat beside him. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" the elderly man said, pointing to the flowers with a gentle smile. "Yes," Rania replied, feeling an inexplicable connection with him. "They're beautiful, but not as beautiful as the love I see between your daughter and my son." Those simple words touched something deep in Rania's heart. In the elderly man's eyes, she saw the same unconditional love she felt for Joaquin. It was at that moment she realized that a person's true worth didn't lie in their bank account or social status, but in their ability to love and be loved. Meanwhile, Joaquin worked tirelessly to create a better world for his growing family. He established scholarship programs for underprivileged youth, inspired by Isla's story. He invested in clean energy projects, thinking about the future he wanted for his child. And every night, he returned home to dine with his extended family, cherishing the simplicity and love that now filled his home. Isla, for her part, blossomed in her new role, filled with happiness and gratitude. Isla's belly grew day by day, just like her love for Joaquin and the family she had found in him.
Every afternoon, she spent hours with her father, listening to stories of his youth and sharing dreams they held for the future. It was a bond that formed slowly, but with the strength of something timeless. Rania, Joaquin's mother, often joined them, bringing cups of tea and homemade sweets, smiling with more than just courtesy. With each encounter, the bridges between two worlds that once seemed irreconcilable grew stronger. The due date was approaching, and the Alvarez mansion was filled with an air of anticipation. Joaquin, with the patience of a man who had learned to cherish small moments, transformed an empty room into a beautiful nursery. With his own hands, he painted the walls with scenes from Arabian fairy tales, breathing life into a space full of magic and hope. Meanwhile, Isla knitted blankets and clothes for their child, each stitch imbued with deep love and renewed hope. As she worked, Joaquin watched her, feeling a love he had never experienced before. Finally, on a warm, starry summer night, Isla gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. The moment Joaquin held his son in his arms, a flood of emotions overtook him. Awestruck by the miracle of life, he couldn't hold back the tears of joy streaming down his cheeks as he looked at Isla, exhausted but radiant. "He's perfect," he whispered, kissing his wife's forehead. The little boy, Airam, so fragile yet so full of promise, filled the mansion with an indescribable happiness. In the following days, the home was alive with the presence of the newborn. Isla's father, his hands rough from years of work, carved wooden toys, passing his craft onto a new generation. Joaquin, his heart swelling with love, watched them, feeling as if his happiness could reach the heavens. One evening, as the family gathered in the living room, Joaquin raised his glass for a toast. The soft candlelight danced around them, creating an atmosphere of peace and gratitude. "To love," he said, looking at each of them. "To family, and to second chances, which allow us to see the true beauty of life." Everyone raised their glasses, and for a moment, the outside world disappeared, leaving only the warmth of genuine love and the promise of a future filled with light. As the months passed, life at the Alvarez mansion found a new rhythm. Airam's cries, full of life and hope, mingled with the birdsong in the garden and the gentle murmur of the fountains. Joaquin, embracing his new role as a father, woke in the middle of the night to change diapers, calm cries, and meet his son's every need. These were tasks he could never have imagined enjoying in his former life, but now he felt infinite gratitude for every moment spent with his family. Isla, thriving in her role as a mother, saw how her love for Airam illuminated every corner of the house. But despite the happiness surrounding her, she felt something missing, something she couldn't ignore. She longed for the independence she once had, the sense of building something greater, of having her own purpose. One afternoon, as Airam slept peacefully in his crib, Isla approached Joaquin. Her face showed a mix of determination and nervousness, but her voice was steady as she spoke. "I want to go back to work," she said, looking at Joaquin with eyes full of hope and doubt. "Not at the front desk, not doing something superficial. I want to do something that makes a difference, something that gives me a sense of purpose." Joaquin, initially surprised, looked at her silently. His heart raced with a mix of emotions, but deep down, he felt immense pride. The woman he had chosen to share his life with, the woman who had shown him the true essence of love, now wanted to continue forging her own path. "I'll support you in whatever you decide," he said, taking her hands in his eyes shining with admiration and respect. "Your strength and compassion are what made me fall in love with you. I want the world to see how wonderful you are." With Joaquin's support, Isla began working on creating a foundation to provide education and job opportunities for women in need. Joaquin's study, a space filled with books and plans, became the headquarters for this new adventure. Every document and proposal represented a dream waiting to be achieved. Isla knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with Joaquin by her side, she felt unstoppable. Meanwhile, Rania and Isla's father, two people who once seemed to belong to different worlds, formed an unexpected connection through caring for Airam. The grandmother, with her refined elegance, and the grandfather, with his calloused hands, shared stories between laughter and silences, perfectly complementing each other in the art of caring for the little one. Together, they told tales that crossed the boundaries of luxury and humility, blending the stories of 1001 Nights
with those Isla's father had heard in his youth.
But as always, life was not without its challenges.
Isla's decision to work outside the home began to draw criticism in certain social circles. Some friends of the Alvarez family could not understand why the wife of such a wealthy man needed to work. In their eyes, it seemed like an unnecessary luxury, a pursuit of something she already possessed: wealth, comfort, and status. Rumors and disapproving glances began to circulate once more, like shadows stalking the young couple's happiness. However, Joaquin, recalling the lessons he had learned, stood firm in his support for Isla. No matter what others said, he knew what she represented and what her heart desired. At a gala night celebrating among Dubai's elite, Joaquin stood up and took the microphone. The room fell into an expectant silence. Today, I want to talk about something bigger than wealth, something greater than appearances. My wife, Isla, is building a better future for everyone. She isn't seeking recognition, money, or glory. She is seeking to change lives, to offer equal opportunities to all women, regardless of their background.
Joaquin's words resonated in the air, filled with conviction, his voice strong and clear. Those who criticize her decision don't understand the true meaning of power. Power isn't about having money. Power is using what we have to make the world a better place. And that's what Isla is doing. I'm proud of her vision, of her heart, of her...
With these words, Joaquin not only defended his wife, but also set a new standard for those clinging to outdated social norms. The murmurs ceased, and many looked at him with newfound respect, recognizing that Joaquin's vision was different, deeper.
Isla's foundation began to bear fruit, but new challenges came with it. Balancing her work, motherhood, and family life turned out to be far more difficult than Isla had anticipated. There were nights of frustration, moments when she felt lost, when doubts crept into her mind. Am I doing the right thing? Should I have stayed home, taking care of Airam? I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. Isla confessed to Joaquin one night as they walked through the dark hallways of their mansion. Joaquin looked at her, and with a warm, yet firm smile, took her hands. You are more than enough, Isla. What you're doing is valuable. What you're doing will change the world, but remember, you're not alone. I'm here with you. The love you have for our family and for this world is stronger than any obstacle. It always will be. Those words, filled with love and determination, renewed Isla's strength. In that moment, she realized she shouldn't give up on her dream of changing the world. And Joaquin, with his unwavering support, made her feel that together they could face any challenge. Over time, Isla's foundation grew and began to transform the lives of many women in Dubai. Women who had once only known the limits of poverty and social exclusion were now leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners. The Alvarez mansion became a symbol of change and hope.
But it wasn't just the women who changed. Joaquin, influenced by Isla's work, began to question the principles on which he had been raised. He called an urgent meeting with the members of the family company's board of directors and firmly proposed radical changes.
We are in the energy business, in the business of building the future. Not in the business of making money for the sake of making money. Money is a tool, not an end. I propose we diversify our company toward renewable energy, implement gender equality policies, and allocate a significant percentage of our profits to community projects. The more conservative members of the board were skeptical. One of the executives, an older man, frowned and said, Joaquin, this isn't what we do. Our business is oil, not philanthropy. But Joaquin, with fire in his eyes, responded, the future isn't built with oil, it's built with vision. And my vision is to create a better world. Money is just a means to that end. If we don't understand this, we are doomed to be left behind.
Joaquin's decision wasn't easy, but it was the kind of decision a visionary leader was willing to make. Meanwhile, Isla faced her own challenges. The growing visibility of her foundation made her a beacon of social change, but also a constant target of criticism. The pressure of being the voice of a global cause while balancing her family life sometimes left her feeling on the brink of despair. One afternoon, during an international conference, Isla received a call that shook her to her core. Her father had suffered a heart attack and was in critical condition. In that moment, the world she had built seemed to crumble.
I can't leave him, Joaquin. I have to be with him, she said, her voice trembling, anxiety and guilt overwhelming her.
Joaquin looked at her with understanding, his eyes full of empathy. I know, my love. Go, don't hesitate. I'll be here, and when you come back, everything will be fine. Your father is as much a part of our family as we are. You don't have to carry everything on your own."
Without a second thought, Isla took the first flight back to Dubai. Upon arriving at the hospital, she found Joaquin holding her father's hand, speaking to him softly in Arabic. The scene moved her deeply. Joaquin, her husband, had been the pillar her father needed at that moment.
Thank you. Thank you for being here for him, Isla murmured, her voice breaking with emotion.
"You don't have to thank me," Joaquin said, gently squeezing her father's hand. "I do it because you're my family. I do it because I love you." In that moment, Isla understood that true love isn't built only in moments of happiness, but also in times of uncertainty and challenge, and with Joaquin by her side, she knew she would never be alone. Isla's father was recovering slowly, and during his convalescence, the family grew closer than ever. Joaquin spent afternoons by his side, listening to stories from his youth and learning lessons that couldn't be found in any business book. In those moments, Joaquin understood that true wealth wasn't found in money but in memories, in the experiences lived and shared. Rania, on the other hand, had discovered a new passion for cooking. Every dish she prepared was an act of love for her husband, her father-in-law, and her family. Isla watched as her mother transformed each meal into a kind of ritual with aromas that evoked simpler times. It was in these moments that Isla reflected on what truly mattered, the connections between people and the value of what one can offer others. One night, after putting Airam to bed, Joaquin and Isla sat in the garden of the mansion. The moon illuminated their faces as they shared a moment of calm. It was then that Joaquin, with a glint in his eye, broke the silence.
"I want to create a city," he said firmly.
Isla looked at him, surprised. "A city?" she repeated, unable to fully grasp his meaning. Joaquin nodded slowly, his voice filled with conviction. "Not just any city, but one that's a model of sustainability, equality, and opportunities for everyone. A place where our children won't grow up thinking that money or lineage is everything, but where they'll learn that true value lies in hard work, unity, and compassion." Isla listened silently, her eyes brimming with emotion. "It's a beautiful dream," she finally said, "but it's enormous. I don't know if—" Joaquin took her hands and smiled tenderly. "It's a dream, yes, but it's a dream I want to make a reality. I want this city to be a place where everyone has the chance to thrive, regardless of their background." Touched by his words, Isla nodded. "We'll do it together," she said with a determination she hadn't shown before. The Al-Amal project began to take shape quickly. Joaquin, with his vision for sustainability, and Isla, with her expertise in community development, attracted experts from around the world. The desert lands on the outskirts of Dubai began to buzz with activity. Solar panels and water recycling systems rose from the ground, promising an eco-friendly, self-sufficient city. Joaquin and Isla ensured that every decision aligned with their values. Schools would not only teach math and science, but also creativity and critical thinking. Healthcare centers would combine the best of modern medicine with traditional wisdom. Public spaces would foster interaction and understanding among people from different cultures and backgrounds. Despite the challenges, the couple remained steadfast in their dream. Criticism was constant. Some saw Al-Amal as a utopian project, while others thought Joaquin was doing it to clean up his company's image. But Joaquin, with his usual calm, responded firmly, "It's a dream, yes, but it's a dream that can change lives." Airam, now 5 years old, became a constant source of inspiration for his parents. His questions about inequality and the future of the world pushed Joaquin and Isla to reflect even more on what they wanted to create for him. They knew that Al-Amal not only had to be a better place, but one where children could grow up safe and happy, free from the social barriers that still divided society. To ensure Al-Amal was an inclusive project, Joaquin and Isla organized community meetings. They invited future residents to share their ideas and concerns. This openness earned them the community's trust, and before long, Al-Amal began attracting people from across the region, eager to be part of such a transformative project. 3 years after construction began, the first families started moving into Al-Amal.
The sustainable homes, powered by solar energy, stood proudly in the desert, and the air was already full of life. Joaquin and Isla looked at the horizon, knowing that, although this was just the beginning, they had already left a mark on the world.
One night, as they watched Airam run through the gardens, Joaquin whispered, "We're doing it, love. We're building the future."
Isla smiled, her eyes filled with tears she couldn't hold back. "Not just for us, but for everyone," she said. "And when Airam grows up, I want him to know that we did this together for a better future." Al-Amal was no longer just a dream. It was becoming a tangible reality, and with it, Joaquin and Isla knew that the true legacy they would leave behind would be one of love, equality, and hope for generations to come. The city of Al-Amal, still in development, displayed the early signs of the vibrant community Joaquin and Isla had envisioned. The streets were brimming with life, with children playing in parks adorned with bright lights, creating a warm and festive atmosphere that invited everyone to feel part of something greater. Adults chatted animatedly in cafes where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the scent of traditional sweets and holiday treats. The building facades, decorated with garlands and lights, welcomed the holiday season, reflecting the very essence of Al-Amal, a place full of hope and unity. Al-Amal shone with lights that illuminated the streets and homes, as if the city itself were celebrating the love and unity Joaquin and Isla had built. At the heart of the city, the Alvarez family had decided to move into a more modest home, without unnecessary luxuries, but filled with warmth and simplicity. Living there, among the people they had helped create a home for, symbolized Joaquin and Isla's commitment to equality, community, and authenticity. Isla's foundation had grown exponentially and now offered training programs for local entrepreneurs, supporting women who had once been beneficiaries of the program and were now running their own businesses in Al-Amal. Bakeries, tech companies, craft shops, all reflected the effort, dedication, and change that the foundation had sown in the city. Meanwhile, Joaquin's family business had shifted its focus, becoming a leader in renewable energy and contributing to sustainability not only in Al-Amal, but throughout the region. Challenges, however, did not disappear. The rapid expansion of the city brought cultural misunderstandings, and some wished for faster progress on environmental issues. Adjustments and adaptation to the city's constant growth were necessary. Yet in those difficult moments, the strength of the community shone brighter than ever. The residents united, not just to face obstacles, but to find innovative solutions. Joaquin and Isla, always present, continued listening and learning from others, aware that each challenge was an opportunity to grow together. On Christmas Eve, Joaquin and Isla were in their garden, surrounded by their children, 8-year-old Airam and their newborn twin daughters, Rania and Ainhoa. Christmas trees decorated with lights glowed softly at the entrance of their home, while the crisp night air carried the scent of pine and the promise of new opportunities. The family had gathered in the center of Al-Amal to attend the community Christmas celebration, a tradition created by the residents to strengthen bonds of brotherhood and solidarity. In the community garden, Isla's family was also present. Her father, though already elderly, played with his great-granddaughters under the twinkling lights of the Christmas trees. His laughter echoed in the air, and the joy was palpable. Rania, Joaquin's mother, was chatting animatedly with a group of neighbors who, after years of working together, no longer saw class differences. They had learned to share not only their resources, but also their dreams. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Joaquin and Isla approached, holding hands.
"Did you ever imagine we'd come this far?" Joaquin asked, with a serene smile, looking around.
Isla, tears glistening in her eyes, replied without taking her gaze off her gathered family, "I always knew our love could move mountains, but this is so much more than I ever dreamed." They remained silent, watching as the community celebrated their unity, as Christmas was experienced not merely as a festivity, but as a reminder of the power of love and compassion. The city of Al-Amal, which had begun as a dream, was now a reality. It had transformed lives, not only theirs but those of thousands of people who now lived in a place full of opportunities.
"Look around," Joaquin said, gesturing to the children playing and families sharing moments together. "This is what truly matters. This is our legacy."
Isla nodded, her eyes fixed on their children and the community they had formed, And this is just the beginning. Together we can keep changing the world, step by step. The night was filled with laughter, carols, embraces, and a profound sense of peace. As they watched their family and friends gather together, Joaquin and Isla realized that their love had transcended the personal. It had become a force that united people, inspiring every human being to fight for a better future. Thus, under the Christmas lights, Al-Amal became a symbol of hope, of dreams fulfilled, and of a future forged with love, unity, and sacrifice. And as the stars shone in the sky over the city, the Alvarez family, surrounded by the fruits of their labor, knew that their story would not only change their destiny, but also that of everyone who dared to dream. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to enjoy more exciting and heartfelt stories. Your support is essential for us to continue creating content. See you in the next video.